Hello and welcome to this free immigration support channel. On this channel I provide just a general advice on how to apply for certain things, the immigration process, the application process, how it works, what to expect, the interviews and stuff like that. All the advice, everything you see on this channel is completely free. Um, just a word of warning, I'm not an attorney. This is not a legal advice. This is just from my personal experience, from what I have learned so far over the course of, going through the immigration process myself and helping a lot of people go through their immigration process as well. So recently I have done a video on the application process for asylum. From the experience, I know that applying for asylum is one of the most complicated immigration process in general. So obviously people had a lot of different questions. I walked through the application process briefly and how to apply, in general, how to write the statement, what to expect, the interview and stuff like that. But in this video I wanted to talk about just a brief do's and don'ts, kind of the guideline of that application process whenever you're applying for asylum. So let's talk about the do's and don'ts. We're not gonna waste too much time, we'll just go straight into it. So the number one thing that, from my personal experience, that I see a lot, and a lot of questions were about that as well on this YouTube channel, is the timeline. When to apply, how soon to apply. Should you wait? Should you wait a month? Should you wait 6 months? The answer to this question is the number one do is start as soon as possible. Do not wait. With the asylum, we are talking about serious situations. You're claiming that you are being persecuted. Your life is in danger. Your family's life is in danger. There is no waiting. There is no really thinking about. The sooner you apply, the less questions the immigration officer in that department will have for you. Now, they will still have a lot of questions, don't get me wrong, but whenever we are running away from danger and we are finally in the safety, and here in the United States of America, where there are freedoms and there are opportunities, there is no persecution. There's no persecution based on political views. There's no persecution based on religion and stuff like that. When we are finally here, when there is finally safety for us and for our families, there is really no thinking. There's really no delaying. If you have to think, should I apply for asylum or should I not apply? Maybe I can wait 6 months and see how things are. Whenever we have to think like that, it means that maybe there is really no danger from the place where we came from. Maybe we are not so worried about that persecution. Maybe there is no persecution at all. And immigration officers, they do understand it. It's obvious. If you have to think about it, maybe you really do not qualify for the asylum. Maybe you should reconsider what you want to do with your whole immigration process. It's very important. Questions like this typically do not arise whenever you are really persecuted, whenever you do need to apply for asylum. You just do it. As soon as you are in the safety, you do it. So it's very important. So the don'ts, obviously, number one is the same, would be do not delay the application. Reconsider, make sure that you're applying from the authentic perspective. You cannot lie on the application. You cannot lie to the immigration officer. You have to be honest about your intentions. You have to be honest about everything that's happened to you, and you have to be honest in your statement. So make sure you're coming from the honest perspective, and obviously this whole timeline, it goes hand in hand with that. So that brings us to the number two, and that's with that our kind of already mentioned it, is the statement. Whenever we are applying for the asylum, we have to present the statement with the description of everything that happened, all of the events, all that describe your persecution, your being your life being in danger, your family lives being in danger, and stuff like that. And this is what is recommended to start with. Obviously you can do other things, and I've seen people concentrate on other things, but at the end of the day, number one important thing whenever it comes to the asylum application is the statement. And that is why, from my personal experience, again, like I said, this is not a legal advice or anything, but just something I have witnessed, is better to start with the statement. And obviously, the don't here would be, do not rush into submitting the application, because you might have that, I have to do it. I have to do it quickly. Finally, I'm here. Finally, I'm free. Finally, there is no persecution and there is no danger. Obviously, you might want to rush into doing things. It's okay to do it, soon, but it's not okay to rush. It's not okay to try to do it too fast and skip certain things. Make sure you follow the process step by step. Another do here is also related to statement, also related to the general process, but is very important in the statement, is the chronology of the events. And basically what I mean here is the timeline. The timeline of events is very important whenever it comes to the statement. You want to make sure that the timeline is clear, because you're the only one who knows the story. You only one who knows exactly what happened. And obviously in your head it is very clear. You can see everything, all of the events. But you have to keep in mind that you are now trying to explain everything that has happened to another person who doesn't know you, and in fact who will not even meet you for a very long time. The immigration officer, it might be the immigration officer who is working on your case, reading your statement. It might be completely different immigration officer who will take the interview from you, and they have to familiarize themselves with your story, with what happened. That's why the timeline is extremely important. Make it easy. Start from the very beginning, and then don't jump from one place. This is the event that happened to me in school, and then you're showing the event that happened when you were an adult 10 years later, and then you go back 5 years again. Don't do that. Be very consistent with your timeline, and it goes for both your story as you describe it in the statement, your interview as you describe your situation, and in general, just keeping everything nice and clear in your head. Because like I said, in your mind, all of the events, you can easily pull that event from 5 years ago, this event from 2 years ago, this event from 6 months ago. But whenever you don't have that timeline, it is very, very easy to get confused, especially whenever you're nervous, whenever you're during the interview. So what I recommend is, what you can do is, you can write down your statement based on the timeline, and you can separately create just the timeline of all the important events. So event in 2005, this happened. Event on March 2008, this happened. Event on April 2010, this happened. Just a short, brief timeline of events, and keep it, and just kind of keep you refreshed. Going back to the statement, one of the don'ts that I want to mention here is that do not be brief on the statement. This is one mistake that I've seen several times people doing. They think that all of the process starts with the interview and all of the information will be asked at the interview anyway, so that they do not include the events in the situations, the really details in the statement. They make it a very brief statement, just like half a page statement saying like, oh yes, I was persecuted and I'm scared to go back there, and there you go, I'm here, please give me asylum. Don't do that. First of all, whenever you're coming from the place of honesty and you are applying for asylum based on legitimate reasons, based on legitimate persecution, you're not gonna take this opportunity for granted like that, right? But even if someone recommended to you just being brief in your statement because it's easy, because you're not going to get confused, it is not a good advice. Genuinely, I honestly seen people who work in the attorneys, immigration attorneys, giving out such an advice where, oh yeah, just be brief in your statement and then we will handle everything in the interview. Don't do that. It is very important to be as detailed as possible in your statement. Describe every situation in as much detail as possible. All right, so let's talk about number 4, which we kind of already mentioned here. That's the do's. Is the be as detailed as possible. You know, don't skip any details. As much information as you can give, go ahead, provide it. And number 4, don't kind of got switched up, is the don't be all over the place. You know, don't be all over the place, meaning with your timeline. You know, don't go from one event back to another event. Okay, so another thing, whenever it comes to the statement, whenever it comes to the initial process of the application, number 5 is gather as much evidence as possible. Now, whenever it comes to evidence, again, bad advice, I've seen it several times, advice that you don't need to provide evidence. In fact, it is true, you do not need to provide evidence initially. You can mail it later, and the application instructions do mention it. But it does not mean that you should go that route. Gather all the evidence that you can, include it in your application. Make sure that you specify specifically, you know, the reference to which evidence you're pointing to, because again, you're presenting it to someone who is going to be reading it. They do not have an option to instantly ask you the question, call you up and say, hey, so I'm reading this line right here and I don't really see the evidence. There is some evidence which might be related to it or not. I just don't know. I don't understand. You don't want immigration officers to have these unnecessary questions. Make it as clear and easy to follow as possible. You know, you say something, and if you do have the evidence to corroborate it, what you are saying, that statement, make sure you say its reference to, you know, the exhibit A, exhibit B. However you want to do it, in which format you want to do it, that's fine. But as long as you make it clear which part of your story, what evidence is supports. Let's say you have a police report and you're describing a story, and just say in the brackets, please see attached police report. So it's nice and clear, easy to follow. And do provide the evidence. It's very important. You know, it's one thing to just say the story, and it's a completely other thing to explain the story in detail and provide the evidence for all of these details. You know, we're coming from the place of honesty. We're trying to become free from persecution. We're trying to run away from danger. You know, this is an important process. An important process takes work, obviously, getting the evidence and putting into the case. That brings us obviously to the number 5. Don't send your application without evidence. Now, you can, but it doesn't mean you should. You know, If you get an advice that, oh yeah, just submit it quickly without the evidence, yeah, it's not a good advice. It's not a good advice, because it's just, you're just opening the door for unnecessary problems to happen. Because uh, immigration officer might simply deny your case and say, well, there is no evidence. Or if they want, they might ask you a whole bunch of questions about it and say, so why didn't you provide the evidence whenever you sent the application? You didn't have the evidence back then? How did you get the evidence now that that you're providing? What changed? Stuff like that. It's really unnecessary stuff. Whenever obviously people, the thing is with the asylum, I've seen it personally. There's a lot of fraud going on. A lot of people, they're not coming from the place of honesty. They just want to use the system and get into the country one way or another, and asylum is one of the ways. It's not good. You shouldn't be doing it. Nobody should be doing it. But the fact that the process is there, obviously there will be bad people trying to use that system for their advantage. And those people obviously will have problems like this, like I'm listing here. They will take it for granted. They will not do their research. They will not want to go in the detail. They will not want to provide the evidence, or they simply will not have the evidence. So all of those things are in place for those people who are not honest, who are not good people. For you, being honest, coming from the place of honesty, trying to really come into the country and have all of these freedoms and run away from danger, don't make these mistakes and get into the route of of things that people who are not serious, who are not good people do. All right, so that brings us to the number 6. Once you're done with your statement, once you're done with your story, with your timeline and everything, obviously it is time to fill out the application, right? And I have done pretty long detailed video. It's on this channel. It's already published if you want to see it, on filling out the application for the asylum, right? But here's the thing, very important thing that a lot of people skip for whatever reason. They don't read the instructions. Do not skip the instructions. It's really one of the main things, that one of the craziest things that you can do is skip reading the instructions. Read the instructions from page 1 to the last page. All of it. Even if you're reading it and you see, oh, this section doesn't seem like it applies to me, read it. Still read it. It's very, very, very important. And follow the instructions to the T. Don't skip the instructions. It's very important. You cannot imagine. I personally had problems with this, not paying attention to certain little things in the instructions and delaying the application. And I've seen many times people just doing the silliest mistakes, absolutely silliest mistakes. If they read the instructions, those mistakes would never happen. So make sure to read the instructions. It's very important. And that brings us to another very important one, is number 7, is use USCIS official information only. And official USCIS information can be found here on the official United States Citizenship and Immigration Services website, uscis.gov. And if I remember, I will place the link in the description below of the video. That's it. This is your source of all the official information. It's always updated. As soon as new information comes out, it will come up here first. This is the source of that fresh, updated information. All of the forms can be found in the forums. All of the application instructions can be found here. Stick to this. This is the main website. And the reason why I'm saying it is because there is a lot of information out there, a lot of third parties to provide information for a fee, or maybe even free. Bad information can be free. And the thing is, it is okay to use third parties' advice. It is okay to listen. After all, if you hire an immigration attorney, that is a third party to your case who is helping you with things. But even with the immigration attorney, do not make the mistake of expecting him or her to do things for you. It is your case. It is your life, your future, your family that you're taking care of. It is your case. Be involved in it 100%. Don't think that, you just give it all to an attorney, and just because it is an attorney, they will do everything for you. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen cases being mistreated, being lost by immigration attorneys who are licensed, and just absolute nightmares, horror stories, people being deported, people going to the jail for not appearing in court because they didn't even know they had a court date. It's just plenty of nightmare stories, and all of that happens not really because, yes, there are bad attorneys out there are careless people out there, but that happens because you, the applicant, is careless. That is number one reason. Don't be careless. This is your case. This is your life. And, whenever you're using the third parties to help you, like immigration attorneys, make sure you're 100% involved. You know exactly what is going on, and you're not careless. And whenever it comes to the information, always double check with the official USCIS website, uscis.gov. Okay, so that brings us to the number 8 of do's. That obviously, whenever you are done with your application and all of that, whenever you send it, keep copies and keep them forever. And I know forever it sounds like big deal, like a lot, but you never know when you are going to need it. You will need it for your interview. You will need it for your court if the case goes to court. You will need it throughout the process of the application for your green card if you do get awarded the asylum. You will definitely need it in your naturalization interview if you get to that point in your life, in your immigration process. Keep copies. It is very important. It's very important for your reference, for the reference of the immigration officer, whoever is handling your case, stuff like that. Keep that. And don't, obviously, get rid of any copies. And also, don't get rid of any receipts. Every time you send in an application, and you will send a lot of them. It's not like you will send one application for the asylum and that's it, you're done. No, you will send the application for the asylum. You will send the application for the employment authorization document. You will send the application for your green card if you are approved for asylum. Send the application for the naturalization. There will be a lot of application processes. Every time you send in the application, you get the receipt. Every time there is a biometrics appointment, you will get the biometrics notice. Every time there is an interview, you will get an interview notification. All of these notifications, receipts, appointment letters, keep all of them. The best practice to do is get a scanner, scan all of them, keep everything nicely sorted out on your computer with a backup, and keep the paper copy somewhere, just dedicate one, either folder or shelf. Probably gonna need something bigger than the folder because you will have a lot of paperwork. Keep it, don't get rid of it. There's nothing in this process that you can get rid of. Very, very, very important, because I've seen personally people just throwing out stuff and then whenever it comes to the interview or something, and they need to go through and find when was I invited for the interview, what did I say here, what did I put here, when did this happen, when did I apply for asylum, they don't know because they got rid of the copies, they got rid of receipts. So don't do that. That brings us to the number 9, which kind of goes along with all of that, is keep calendar for all of dates. Just a really good thing to do, just a good or organized thing to do. And it's not just for, let's say you applied for asylum today, right? And in a week you are invited for an interview scheduled for March 25th, 2020, right? It's not just you go there and okay, March 25th, 2020. You have that date, important date, you have it on your calendar. Not just that, but also circling the today's date when you applied, circling the date when you received the notice whenever for the interview, whenever you receive the notice of the receipt of the application, because all of these dates are important. For example, after 180 days after you receive the notice that your application was received and accepted by USCIS, you can apply for an employment authorization document, which is a very important thing. It allows you to legally work in the United States. Without it, you cannot work in the United States, right? So it's a very important thing. If you don't know when the receipt date is, obviously you're not going to know when the 180 days expire and when you can apply for employment authorization document. So it's just a little example of, showing you the picture of how important just all of these dates are. It's not just to remind you, oh yeah, you have the interview next week, but it's also to follow along with the process and all of the things that have to go with the process. And obviously that brings us to the don't. Number 9 is, don't miss important dates. Don't miss your interview. Don't miss your, the expiration date for the employment authorization document, clock, which I actually done a video on. If you're interested on how that process works, I have the video on this channel. And number 10, so that, we can be done with this and not make it any longer, is probably one of the harder ones, and is keep your memory fresh. And why it is hard, obviously people who apply for asylum, who came to this country looking for a better life, running away from persecution, running away from danger, it's hard. It's hard to keep your memory fresh because you have to think about the bad things that happened to you. Now that you're here, now that you have all of these freedoms, all of these opportunities that, this beautiful country provides, it's hard to still keep all of these bad, terrible things that happened to you back where you came from, right? You would rather forget. You would rather not think about it. But no matter how hard it is, don't just yet. Don't forget them just yet. Keep them fresh for now. You need it. You need it because this is part of the application process. You have to describe those things in great detail in your statement. You have to describe those things in great detail in your interview. And you will have to remember all of those things throughout, not just the application process for the asylum, because if you get your asylum, you'll get your green card, and then the next step is naturalization until you are done with that process. Because on the naturalization interview, things will come up, the questions will come up that have to do with your past. It's just inevitable. So make sure to keep your memory fresh for now, no matter how hard it can be. And don't forget just yet. I know it can be hard, thinking about terrible things, that you ran away from. You don't want to live in this past anymore. But it's just part of the process. Just like with, a criminal case. If you have been robbed and you have to make a police report, you have to make all of the statements, you have to show up in court, you might not want to remember it. It was a terrible experience, you were scared, you don't want to remember it, you don't want to think about it. It was a horrible experience. But you have to. If you want the justice done, if you want to serve your duty, as a citizen and as a human being, and have the criminal caught and apprehended and justice served, you have to do all of this thing. Just like with this case, persecution is terrible, danger, you don't want to think about it, but it's part of the process, and you have to keep your memory fresh just for now. So hopefully all of this helps. If you have any questions, obviously you can ask me in the comments below. I will be creating a Facebook group soon where you can go and ask the questions. As soon as I do, I will put the links everywhere in the description below. So if the link is still not there, then I just didn't get a chance to create one yet. Keep in mind, none of this is attorney advice or legal advice in any way. Once again, verify all of the information at the official source, which is USCIS.gov. Obviously, some of the information that I provided in this video, it might be outdated. The updated information is always there on USCIS.gov. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any requests, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.